Welcome, beautiful seekers, to this Venus retrograde discussion. This was something that I have been preparing for and working through for the last couple of weeks. I wasn't even sure I was going to do a Venus retrograde video, and then the call got stronger and stronger and stronger until I'm sitting here with you right now. In fact, I just spent the last couple of days filming 12 videos for the Venus retrograde that are very specific to each sign. And I spent some time really crafting affirmations and ways to work with this transit based on those 12 energies as a little bit of a mini toolkit that you can take with you through this 6-week transit. So, I mean, it spiraled into this huge project. I'm going to leave the Vimeo link below because I am going to charge just a small fee, you guys, just a small fee, because it took me a lot of time and effort to create those materials, and they're really designed for anybody who is interested in adding another layer into this discussion. And I'm experimenting with creating more content for you guys. In order for me to do that, I've just got to, create these spaces so that I can do that, and so we can have an energetic exchange in that. So don't worry. I'm still going to be here. There's going to be plenty of free materials for those of you who just want to join me here because I love being here. That's why I'm doing this, is because I love being here. But for those of you who want more content, for those of you who are looking for those extra layers, those extra spaces that you can take with you, little toolkits and things like that, I'm starting to work on adding more stuff. And I'm going to hopefully be working on a subscription service where those of you who want to opt in will have access to everything, and you will be able to connect with me more and more on all the materials I'm creating. So if you're interested in that, leave a comment below that you are, so that will inspire me to continue creating. But I've just finished doing those 12 videos and talking about everything that's going on for all those energies. And now I'm going to sit here and we're going to look at what Venus retrograde does and why it is such an important transit and one to really pay attention to. I don't like to get superstitious about retrogrades or transits because I don't think that we are controlled by transits. I don't think that I can sit here and say, well, for the next 2 years, this is exactly what's going to be happening to you. So I don't get fatalistic about any one transit or any aspect. I really don't. So I don't want to get superstitious about the Venus retrograde. But here's the thing. This is the most symbolic and poetic transit we have in our library of astrology, I feel. Just alone, the pattern that Venus makes with Earth over an 8-year period is a lotus flower. So if you look that up, just like Google search that, you will see the most beautiful geometry pattern that Venus makes over an 8-year period. So that alone. Venus retrograde is doing something. She is a calibrator. She is a mirror. She is an internal investigator when she is in retrograde like this. She tends to bring with her very fated events, very deep and meaningful conversation, and personalities and energy connections that are very useful for getting a lot of information in a short window of time. So, Venus retrograde only happens about every 19 months. We don't have a Venus retrograde every year. The last one we had was in March and into the first half of April last year. She retrogrades for about 6 weeks at a time. So this retrograde, she is starting her retrograde on October 5th at 10 degrees of Scorpio. She moves her way back through Scorpio until October 31st. And then when she hits there, she goes back through Libra until November 16th, and she stations direct at 25 degrees of Libra. So we're dealing with Scorpio and Libra energy for this specific transit. I'm about to get into what those energies mean when Libra is retrograding there, but there's a couple notes I want to put in here to contextualize this specific retrograde before we go there. And there's 2 areas that I want you guys to think about when it comes to Venus retrograde. One is, what did your last Venus retrograde look like? What was going on March and April of 2017? what themes were being brought to you. Because one thing that I've noticed with Venus retrograde, she will give you all the information you need right up front. But a lot of times while you are in the Venus retrograde itself, you will not be accepting that information. You won't have your head fully wrapped around it. It's a transit that only makes sense when we look back on it. It really is. Some transits we can kind of be conscious of what's happening while it's going on. You're like, okay, I'm needing to work on this. Saturn is working with me on this. So I'm feeling a little foggy. Neptune is working with me on this. Mercury, I'm having a little bit of difficulty putting the pieces in place. But Venus retrograde, I've noticed, you won't really understand what's happening. When you look back, you will realize we were getting huge signals about something in your life, about something that you love and value in your life that needed readjustment, whether that was something of self-value within yourself or a material thing or a relationship or all three. A lot of times these things all work together, so they all inform each other. So that's the first context. Just think about where you've come in that 18-month period. What has elapsed in that time? Because I guarantee you, most of you will have graduated from whatever that focus was of early last year, early 2017. The other context, time-wise, is it takes 8 years for Venus to make that lotus pattern that I was talking about. 8 Earth years is 13 Venus years. And so every 8 years, there's a full cycle culminating. So 8 years ago, 2010, we had a Venus retrograde. And I believe it was around the same time. It was in the last part of 2010. So it means that we are closing out an 8-year cycle, right? We are making the full lotus flower shape, and we are closing out a cycle. This is a long range cycle, and this is something that sometimes it's very hard to see while the 8 years are going on, and really can be a big macro lens cycle discussion. But it's another place to look at where you have transformed fully as a being. I have had so many spooky, perfectly lined up experiences with Venus retrograde that I really do think this is just one of the most effective retrograde transits there are. So let's talk about this specific one and where it's taking us. Venus retrograde in Scorpio, which is what will be happening most of October, or all of October, almost all of it, is a really powerful placement. Scorpio is Mars ruled. It's a co-ruler with Pluto for Scorpio. And Mars, of course, is the counterpart to Venus. Mars is the warrior. Mars is the masculine, forward-focused, directional energy, right? So Venus in Scorpio is a little uncomfortable already. We're already kind of putting this energy, because Venus, I haven't even gotten into this. Venus, rules. She's the goddess of love and beauty. So she rules how we love, how we give love, how we value ourselves, and our material possessions, the beautiful things we put around us, our aesthetics, how we care for, I think even how we, care for our body and our appearance, and how we connect not only on soul, but physical levels, right? With what we love and value. She's a very important player in the mix. She's retrograde here in a Martian energy. So there's already a vulnerability there that is profound. I always say Scorpio is one of the most vulnerable and healing energies that we have access to. And while there is an edge and there can be harshness with the Scorpio energy, it is here to give us guidance and to investigate very profoundly what is inside of us, what our deepest callings and urgings are, and where we are needing to transform. It's quite a poignant energy. Venus retrograde, Venus going internal, because what are retrogrades all about? They are a breath. They allow us to hail. They allow us to breathe. They allow us to incorporate. They allow us to understand why and how we have gotten where we are. They allow us to think before we, to reset before we put our foot on a path. So when she starts her retrograde in Scorpio, we're shedding a skin. We are going all the way into ourselves. This could be a lonelier part of the retrograde where you are really looking at your relationship to yourself. Classically, Venus retrograde is famous for bringing in short-term love affairs that end very quickly. She's famous for bringing people from our past in, for there being, if you make aesthetic changes to yourself or to your home, you may not love them after the retrograde is over. And here's where I'm saying, sometimes we are not really understanding the information coming in while we're in the transit, right? We can't see everything clearly because we're being asked to look in almost a hall of mirrors to investigate our relationship to love and value. And where does that start? It starts with our relationship with ourselves. Now that can get very hall of mirrors, right? What self are we talking about? Are we talking about the conscious mind self? Are we talking about our higher self, our inner being, however you like to think about? Are we talking about our subconscious mind, which is a highly functional part of our brain that does a lot of the work for us, and is very effective at creating change? There are so many levels that we can be probing during this time. Now, Venus retrograde, because this isn't an analytical energy necessarily. This is an intuitive energy. So it's not always about putting pros and cons on a sheet of paper and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing right, this is what I'm doing wrong, let's go, let's fix it, let's adjust it. It's much more of a feeling energy. It's much more of feeling your way through with the intuitive lens of your energy system. It's the best way I could put it. But Venus retrograde in Scorpio. Scorpio is an investigative energy. It wants to get to the bottom of something. It wants to go all the way down to the cellar and dredge up any structural foundational issues and make sure they are addressed. It wants to solve the mystery. It wants to help you get rid of the bones in the cellar so that you can move forward. It wants you to sit with those bones before you move forward, though, right? So we are in the depths here. And that's why I say there's a sense of isolation with it, where we have to intuitively feel through our relationship with ourselves where we are self-isolating, where we are feeling that we have to hide ourselves, that we are too much, that we are too little, that we aren't enough, that we aren't allowed to be seen fully. That is a pretty profound process. And one of the things I will say about Venus retrograde and why she's famous for bringing people in to our circle during this time that sometimes go away again, or sometimes just come back, like people come back from your past and you have a deep conversation with them and then they go away again. Why are those people showing up? Why would you have these short-term love affairs or these short-term connections with beings, other energies, if they're just going to go away again? What is that? They are very effective mirrors. They help you gauge how far you've come, and they help you gauge where you want to go next. So if you're experiencing that, some people will be that for you. Now, that does not mean that people that come into your life will automatically leave your life just because you're meeting them during a Venus retrograde. I don't want that idea. Once again, let's not get superstitious here, because Venus retrograde is also famous for fated events, for fated meetings, fated connections, and some things that come out of a Venus retrograde, a time of integration, a time of deep, substantial healing, can be the things that you take with you forward for a long time. And I think once we get into the Libra portion of this retrograde, you may be noticing that conversational connected part of the retrograde starts to take effect, because Venus rules Libra. So they have a very good relationship. So starting November 1st, we are in Libra territory. actually October 31st, but we'll just think about November as the Libra portion. So those first 16 days of November, we have this retrograde happening in the sign of relation, self and other, conversation, creating space between self and other, creating a shared energy with ourselves and with another. This is air energy. This is moving energy. This is energy that wants to get things flowing and moving. And so while the first part of this retrograde can feel isolating, can feel like you have to dive deep, can feel like the conversations are very much about very heavy, real things. And also where you are probing your vulnerabilities and your self-worth, and where you are holding yourself back or hiding yourself or wanting to sabotage yourself and feeling a lack of self-worth. Any of those themes can be coming up. The Libra portion is the other side of the coin in some ways, because this is about how we connect, where we give in healthy ways, where we set healthy boundaries, and how we want to create and connect. I think that this is a part of the retrograde that could create really deep connections, that could create really beautiful spaces. For those of you in deep partnerships or in a lot of close relationships, this retrograde can be fantastic for having meaningful conversations that help revolutionize those relationships so that they can move forward with you. I mean, the real thing with Venus is she wants to revolutionize your world when it comes to the most tender part of yourself, which is what you love and value. She wants to revolutionize your relationship with yourself and to others. So she's working this time into quite intense energies, one that is about going down into the underworld and working in the bones and the depths, in the midnight garden, as I like to call it, and one that is about our profound relationship and how we need other people. We are designed to create energy and flow with other beings, but the only way we can do that is if we have a healthy relationship with our seller. That sounds weird. Okay, don't take that the wrong way, people. We have a good relationship with our midnight garden, with our deep, dark soil. And we have a good relationship with how we share of those riches, right? So this is very visceral. This is very real. And here's the thing that I was saying. I know I mentioned earlier that during the Venus retrograde, things feel foggy. You'll have all the information you need while it's happening. I mean, seriously, a lot of times people will show their cards completely during this retrograde. They will be very honest. If you have somebody coming into your life and they're like, yeah, I'm not really interested in committing. Oh yeah, no, I'm not really interested in that. Oh, I'm not really available. They're giving you all the information. But it's interesting with Venus retrograde because she almost makes it very difficult to see and hear when you normally may be able to. And I think part of the reason that is part of this retrograde is we kind of need to go through some processes with that. And the other side of it is try your best to watch and pay attention to the details. Try your best to just watch what's going on around you. Watch what's going on inside of yourself. Watch how you're reacting to things. Take a lot of notes. Write in a lot of journals. Scrapbook. Go for walks. Write music. Do anything like that during this time and store it all up. Because once we hit into the direct energy again, all the dam will be opened. And everything you got from that retrograde will suddenly be producing the fruits and results of where you want to go next. You will suddenly be able to put your foot on a path. And partially that is because Sag is getting the gift of Jupiter going home to Sagittarius on November 8th. So right before this retrograde goes direct, we are getting this huge boost of Jupiterian energy. Because once Jupiter hits into Sagittarius, it is comfortable. It is here to give everybody that expansive spotlight energy, and it is wanting us to move forward and forge forward and expand into big, new, bold territory. So the poetry of this retrograde is so powerful. She wants to set you up. She wants to get rid and clear out anything that is holding you back from this big, expansive vision. Now, there's a couple other aspects to think about during this retrograde that'll be happening at some point. Mars is still in Aquarius, which is in a square to the Scorpio portion of the Venus retrograde. That can bring up a lot of aggravation, a lot of sexual tension, a lot of frustration. You know, Mars is geared up, ready to go forward in Aquarius and that airy energy. And then, Venus is over here in this watery, introspective energy, so you can feel tension. That's another thing. Don't take anything out on anybody. Take your time reacting to things. Don't assume anything during this retrograde. Everybody else is also working through their relationship to love and value. Everybody else is also working through their self-worth issues. I'm pulling cards. Death just flew out, of course. Scorpionic energy is very strong. The only way you are going to ride into the November, December new beginning energy that is coming up here is if you are willing to let go of old versions of yourself that have been holding you. It's the only way. There is no, if you hold on to that old version of yourself, the chances of this Venus retrograde kind of dragging you around with it and leaving you kind of haunted are a lot higher. Stakes are high with Scorpio energy. It's never a just kind of, we'll see, maybe. It's all or nothing. Are you going to answer the call and stand up and show up to what you really love and value? Are you going to value yourself enough to do that? Or are you going to keep the same old sloppy, unhealthy boundaries and the same old ways of viewing yourself? Where are you feeling triggers? Where are you feeling wow, I really care about this. I really care about this. I really want to make this work. I really want to bring this vision to life. And then you feel like you have to shut it down. That's where Venus wants to give you information and will be giving you information. Another aspect to this retrograde, during the Scorpio portion especially, is that Neptune is still in Pisces, and that is a beautiful trine with the Scorpio portion. Neptune helps us dream and envision and expand our line of sight. So while we have that aggressive, frustrated energy, that's very short-term thinking. The Neptunian energy helps us to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the energetic picture. You could really tap into some deeply psychic energies during the October weeks of this retrograde, and I think that is an important tool. Let's see what came out. 4 of Cups and 5 of Wands, of course. Neptune, Mars. Yeah. Let me pull a 4th card to finish this out. And then I think we'll leave it at that. I could talk about this transit for a long time. I tell you what, I'm getting goosebumps right now. It's taken me so long to sit down and do this because the things that happen during this retrograde are so on the nose. I find it fascinating, and I'm really curious to see how we all ride through this, because I tell you what, conversations are going to be so deep. Revelations are going to be so crisp and profound. And I actually think that this is a retrograde of deep connection. Not every relationship is going to be deep connection. Everybody's going to be experiencing this depending on what you've asked to learn and what you've asked to grow forward in. You will be delivered different challenges with this. So keep that in mind. It's a very personal planet. It's a very personal placement. It does not affect us all the same way, Ace of Pentacles. Okay, I like that. Does not affect us all the same way. It is a time of deep connection if you are willing to go there. So we've got to transform. We have to integrate. Right? 4s in tarot are all about integration. And the 4 of Cups is sometimes associated with frustration, right? Not being so frustrated with what you have sitting in front of you and so ready for the next thing. And why isn't it here? It's a retrograde. Sometimes it is time to calm and integrate, right? This cup has never left you. It's always there. This is a beautiful retrograde to tap into higher self. Ask for guidance. Ask for connection. Even if you don't believe in that wonky stuff, if you're not one of those people that believes in ask your angels for help, I get it. Try it. When you get in bed at night, just try it. Just ask. Very briefly, just be like, hey, give me some info. You'll see what happens. Five of Wands is really speaking to the sexual tension and frustration of this retrograde because it's there and it will show itself. There will be frustration. There will be times when you just can't express yourself in the way you want to express yourself. You just can't quite get there. And there may be some fights. There may be some verbal, there may be just times when you just feel at war with the whole process. Once again, this is a transit that will only make sense once it's completely over. You'll be able to look back and you'll be like, oh my gosh, all the pieces will come into place, which is why I really suggest journaling, because when your future self reads all that, oh my gosh, you're going to crack up. You're going to want to move on what this is that you love and value, that is there with you in the bones of your being. You're going to want to move on it. You're going to want to feel so frustrated. I mean, look at the aggravation there. When you have these two energies working at you, you're going to want it all to happen right now. But I tell you what, Venus retrograde only sweeps away things that aren't no longer serving us, and she's setting up the groundwork for the things that are going to ride long-term with us for the next 8 years, for the next 8-year cycle. And that's really poignant with the Uranus transit in Taurus as well. Which is opposing the Scorpio section of this retrograde as well. She's setting us up for that. So anything that is going to be meaningful in your life, this retrograde, okay, you have to wait 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever, for it to come to full fruition and get all your answers. So what if it's something that's going to last in your life for a long time? Does it really matter? Like I said, that cup never leaves you. It's never gone. That's a false narrative that our analytical mind creates for that. Okay, Ace of Pentacles. But see, there's a huge payout for this retrograde if you're paying attention. If you're listening, listen to your gut instinct. Listen to that instinct that says, oh, pull back, wait and watch for a couple days. Listen to your instinct that says, this doesn't feel quite right to me. This doesn't feel like loving, giving, compassion. This feels like something I need to step back from. Take this time to set your stores in order. Get your house in order. Tap into your spiritual self. Spend time with those people who make you feel rich, who make you feel like even if you have a tiff, even if you're having a tough day, you get more connected, not less. Pay attention to people who feel like they are draining your energy or using you for a safe space. Pay attention to the spaces you're spending time in, and if they're draining your energy or making you feel good. Pay attention to where what friendships are feeling the most supportive to you. Pay attention to who you're thinking about the most during this retrograde, who's pinging up in your radar. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to all the cues because they will be all around you. They will be speaking to you constantly. I'm getting more goosebumps. Oh my gosh. I'm a little nervous about this retrograde, you guys. I'm a little nervous. The last retrograde brought about a series of events with such precision. I'm talking the day it started to the day it ended that I, even to this day, it's profound. I don't want to spook you guys. It's just a very powerful transit. It just is, which is how I got into making 12 extra videos in the last couple of days. Yeah, but it's setting us up for this Jupiter return. It's setting us up for doing a lot, making a lot happen. We need these transits. We need these times of reset. We need these times to commune with ourselves and send a lot of love. I'm a big fan of doing guided meditation during this time. You know, there are timeline meditations that are really beautiful for doing some healing and sprinkling some golden light on tough situations in your past. There are great guided meditations for going through the houses of a room and connecting in with old versions of yourself that have felt hurt or neglected and healing your relationship with those aspects of yourself. There's a lot that you can do. And also, you know, you can check out my 12 videos on Vimeo. Like I said, the link will be down there. They're available to rent or to buy. You can download them if you buy them and keep them forever on your own devices. Those are there as resources as well with the affirmations and areas of your body or your being that you can check in with. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with those you love. Be patient with the process. tap into and just get into the spiritual side of this and to the cue work that'll be done. There's going to be a lot of winking. There's going to be a lot of clues. It's going to be a profound transit. When you get Scorpio involved, it's profound. And when you get Libra involved in her ruling sign, we are talking big stuff here. I can't stop getting shivers. This is a big one. And I'm with you through this all. I will be with you. Follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be trying to post a ton about this transit, a lot of supportive materials for this transit, because I think we need that love and we need that space for it. So keep posted at the Sarah Tarot on Instagram. I'll leave all my website and my email info below as well. And I'm wearing PinkLune. Check her out. And I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about the additional videos plus what you're going through in this retrograde. If you need encouragement, I highly recommend coming back to this video in the midst of it when you're having a tough day or when you're having a confused day and just get a reminder of what this energy is working with you. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining me. I just talked for 30 minutes straight. I feel like I didn't even scratch the surface with this one. I feel so strongly about it. I love you guys so much and enjoy. Have a sacred, beautiful Venus retrograde.